questions as he goes. So just these arrows. I lost my remote.
Okay. Yeah, please. Please ask questions as we go. So you can interrupt me all you like. I'm a short talker. So we're going to talk tonight about riparian restoration in Lebanon, which is goofy as heck. And how does a person end up in Lebanon? I don't know where the email came from. Was it you that sent it around, or somebody from maybe Clarkport Coalition? Said the Forest Service was looking for someone to go to Lebanon, and I thought, what the hell? That's something I'd never do. So I wrote back, and the guy in charge of the program was someone I taught to prune fruit trees. So I got the job. Yeah. Yeah. So it worked real well. And I did all this through the Forest Service, like I said, and they have an international program. I didn't know anything about this, but they're in 100 countries all around the world doing all kinds of goofy stuff. And they've got a ton of people on the ground and traveling around, and most of them doing pretty good work. So it's a real venue to, if you're interested in future career things, that's one of them. They're always hiring, I think. What else do I have to say about the Forest Service? Yeah. And this guy Chris, who got me the job, he's right here in Missoula, and he runs the worldwide thing, international program for the circus.
So they just have like a partnership with the Forest Service?
Yeah, I guess you could call it that, yeah. And then the outfit that the Forest Service sent me to work with was called the Lebanon Reforestation Initiative. And that turned out to be an awesome group of folks. I hate to be a sexist pig, but women are going to save the planet. Yeah, and I got put in with a pod of really smart gals over there that were doing awesome work. And
to Mark's credit, he literally has been saying that for 20 years.
Have I?
Yeah.
These.
You're ahead of your time.
Ah, maybe. Sure. We don't need that anymore. Yeah, we went through all that stuff. I want to make sure I hit all this stuff. Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm a soil scientist. Yeah, I forgot that too. So my job over there in Lebanon was merely to. It felt like I was using my 20 years of making of messes and problems here and mistakes here. I put it all to use there. It was really neat to use all the lessons I've learned in one setting. And so everywhere I went, they would ask me questions and I actually knew the answers. I'm not used to that. So it was awesome.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Is Lebanon, I mean, never being there, seems like a really different place from Montana.
It is different, yeah.
So how, I mean, I guess with your background and information and stuff.
That's a good question. The riparian issues that I ran into were the same we're having here.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Now remember, they've had 5,000 years to screw things up. So we've only had a couple hundred here. So they're
the future.
They're the future. That's exactly right. But the riparian stuff was kind of similar. These are I stole this slide from another SER presentation. I've been with SER, by the way, since '92, I think. But yeah, these are all the issues that we ran into. That's a ton. Every problem you can think of exists over there, and then some. And some I never thought we could.
What's anthropogenic litter? Like garbage?
Garbage. That's their Lebanese terminology for garbage. They all speak like 7 languages. I'm such an idiot. Yeah. And then they mix them all up. And yeah, it's crazy. This is a small sampler of things to come. Yeah, look at that. There it is. Yeah, uncontrolled waste management. They have no waste management system. Yeah, if I did, things would happen to it. Weird things. So yeah. So the overarching reason I went over there was to assist them in building a foundation for this thing. And this just came out a few weeks or a month ago now. Yeah, it's National Revegetation Guidelines for Lebanon.
Wow.
Yeah, and they, LRI, worked like crazy on this. They have a bureaucracy over there that I can't even fathom, and they have to dovetail it with the UN and USAID and all these other nightmare agencies to get this stuff done, and they did it. So it was quite a feat.
When were you there and how long were you there?
I did two visits over there, and that was in 2019. So this is all a little dated. It was just before COVID, and I was supposed to give this talk then.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. You were next up.
I was next up, and then COVID, yeah, and COVID hit. Yeah.
No, Diana's sick. We literally shut down like the day she
Oh.
got sick and she bailed. I'm pretty sure now she had COVID, and then the world shut down like literally 3 days later. Yeah.
Glad we're done with all that stuff. So yeah, this was the
No,
final.
now it's virtual, right? That's what I hear. That just So.
I'm not gonna get them.
No, that's the crux of it.
Yeah. So this is a map of Lebanon. There's a coastal plain. They've got about 140 miles of coastline. Then there's a dipsy-do in the middle of the country with a little mountain range. And then you head towards Syria, and there's a big mountain range. And it's not a big country at all. So 140 miles of coast. That's it. I've got some. Yeah, it's teeny. You can walk over it easy. That's what. Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah. That's all the bigger it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
That feels a little. That feels like something you can wrap your head around.
It is.
That's not much bigger than the Bitter Valley.
I know. I know.
Yeah.
I mean, I could walk to Derby, probably. Yeah, it's not big, but those mountain ranges do mess things up. And then you feel like you're in a weird place because of Syria is right there, and coming up against the Syrian border. Those guys, they have no sense of humor. And
The latitude is.
that's a good question. It's right on the Mediterranean. I'm not sure of the latitude.
That's pretty, it's like, yeah, it has south end of, like, below Greece.
Yeah, it's below, it's south of Greece, yeah.
So more arid than us.
There's where it is.
Well,
North of Israel. Yeah, the Mediterranean is so polluted there, you wouldn't stick your finger in. It is just unbelievable. Yeah. This was all a surprise to me. I thought, ooh, the Mediterranean. Yeah. And, you know, being in.
You brought your Speedo with you, didn't
Yeah.
you?
Yeah. And I didn't know anything about Lebanon. I didn't know how safe it was or anything else. So my first day there, I go down to the harbor, and I'm always thinking of exit plans. That's my life. And I went down there and picked out the boat I was going to steal. And it was a nice one. I had it all picked out, ready to go. This was the view right outside my window. This is what Beirut looks like. It's a map. Yeah, yeah. It's a crazy town, and they don't drive well. Well, they drive great, I should say, because they don't crash into each other, but it's like bumper cars where they miss. Yeah, it's weird. Anyway, I made lots of friends there. This is not one of them. This guy has enough friends. He's got all of his goats named. He's out there all by himself. I don't know what to think. This is a typical upland setting. This used to all be forested thousands of years ago. Yeah, most of that country was heavy into forest. And you got to remember the climate there is Mediterranean, meaning they get hot, dry summers, but in total they get about 27 inches of rain. That's a lot. That's more than Northwest Iowa. So there's a lot of precip there.
So it was conifers or deciduous?
It was conifers, the cedars of Lebanon.
Oh.
Yeah, and there's only a small grove left, but there was all kinds of pines, and in the riparian areas, cottonwood, and there's still some of those left. Not
And
much
this is
else.
From manually clearing or
Goats.
goats?
Yeah,
Goats?
and they cut them for firewood, and like I say, it took 5,000 years. They've probably lost 2 or 3 feet of soil in the uplands,
Oh my gosh.
and in the lower country as much. Yeah, and I'll show you some pictures of that. They don't know this. It's just me looking at it, going like, holy crap. Or our experience up in Anaconda, where we know they've lost 4 feet of dirt, came into play here. I'm going, holy crap, this is just like Anaconda. Yeah.
They didn't know it.
No, they didn't know this stuff. So that's why it was kind of useful for me to show up. Yeah. That's the only, there's all kinds of weird stuff. Lots of limestone there, and they build right on it. Weird places. There's some of the pine trees. They're planting lots of pine these days, and it's mostly for nuts. Yeah, and they're really good pine nuts. And they grow well. They survive well.
What species is that?
They call it stone pine. I'm not
Stone
really.
pine?
Yeah, but every country has a stone pine. Yeah.
What's our stone pine?
I don't know. There's the range here on the other side of Syria.
Oh my God.
Yeah, there's a ton of snow there, and so that country has actually got a lot of water, a lot. And we actually had to dig our way into a little cafe to get lunch. They, yeah, yeah. That was part of our assessment for. Yeah. There's national parks, more of those pines. This has not been disturbed as much, but everything there has been disturbed in some way or another, but this is less disturbed. These trees aren't even that old. They're probably, well, I'll show you. They're not old. So they're not very old. They've got good growth there. That was taken in the national park next to those trees.
So what do you think these forests looked like 5,000 years ago? Were they huge?
Yeah,
trees?
they were big trees. They in the older records, they talk about using them for shipbuilding. And they had, now the trees they have now, the Lebanon cedars that are left are scraggly and wind snapped and all
Or
kind
no
of
soil?
ugly. And they're thinking, oh, here's our great grove. And I'm going like, dude, you missed the boat. Yeah, this stuff that they talked about building years ago took really good lumber, which they don't have. Well, the population, I wanted to talk about that. The population of this place is about 5.5 million. So that's
That's a lot.
it seems like a lot. Yeah, and they're concentrated into those urban areas. And add to that 1 to 2, closer to 2 million Syrian refugees. The refugees have swamped the country, and they're literally swamped. I'll show you some pictures. But it's a big deal. The refugees are really hurt. This is our reference site. There's a protected batch of springs at the base of some of those hills, and just a beautiful high-volume spring. That right there is a little model floating island, floating treatment wetland, because they could sure use the floating treatment wetlands there. And yeah, I can just put some phragmites in there and pushed it off, and it apparently it grew. Yeah.
Would you planted in that?
Yeah. I took some mud and I got some rhizomes from the phragmites and plopped it in there. Yeah, it was just a demo, just to show them how it can be done. I'm sure those geese or ducks or whatever those things are probably good.
Rope holding it? What's the rope?
Yeah, we took some cord to bind it up, and then we just let it go.
Underwater.
That's a hose they were using for some of their. So this.
So is that rare though to have that?
Very.
Sort of, yeah.
It's the only one in the whole country.
And do you feel like that's because of the deforestation?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not sure how this was protected. It's a small island. It's a very small island of saved habitat. And there's otters in there too. It's not very big. If it's 100 acres, I'd be surprised. But all the older riparian vegetation is there. Cottonwood. And,
Are there willows there too?
there are.
Okay.
Yep. I couldn't identify them, but the cottonwood were easy to identify.
What species of cottonwood is it? Do you know?
No, I don't. I did it one time, but. Yeah. So this is a very typical situation here. So all these rivers in this country had big floodplains and giant wetlands. And as you can see, every day they're filling in more and more. And I mean by the day, with garbage and junk. And they think they need more land, so they're pushing more fill into the wetlands. And that's a real crime. And a lot of this, believe it or not, is promoted by the USAID. Yeah, And because there's huge flooding issues in this country, because all the rain happens in the wintertime and it happens in big dumps. So the floods are significant, and that's their big problem. Everybody's worried about the floods, but they keep inhabiting the floodplains and the wetlands and doing exactly the opposite of what they're supposed to be doing. So what you're going to see here is all the techniques that the USAID uses to get rid of water on their landscape. And because of that, they're desertifying this country rapidly.
So what happens when a big flood happens now?
Well, you'll see. I don't have pictures of this, but basically these are canals now. And they've trenched them out, they've lined a bunch of them, and it's just a torrent that goes out. And yeah. So that landscape water holding capacity, which is near and dear to all of us, they have no, they don't see the value in it, and that's really scary. And the United States is using our tax dollars to help them out to do this. And I
think that we highly regulate and
yeah, and I got to tell you, I came head to head with a few of these bureaucrats, and they were Americans. They're arrogant sons of bitches. And I don't do well in bureaucratic land, which is good. But it was really surprising how much power these punks held. They were young. They were in their 20s. Yeah, just arrogant as hell. Yeah, just saying, oh, we can shoot this water out of here. So yeah, so that was a real eye opener for me. I didn't know we'd be battling them as well. Just another typical scene. Look at that group of Phragmites in the middle.
Now, is that invasive there?
No,
No, it's native.
and I had to talk USAID out of that. They thought it was
They wanted to
invasive.
dredge them?
Yeah, and no, it's native there. And it was a big debate to see if it was native. I had to go all over the damn place to the botanists. It was so fun. Because Phragmites in this country strikes fear into the hearts of all the people that work with water.
Because it means wet, it means less conveyance, it means storage, like things.
It's got a root system that's just crazy. Yeah, and it holds. You get that to go somewhere, your bank is going nowhere ever. Yeah, and it takes floods really well. We've got some in Montana.
We do, but we don't want
Right, I was gonna say.
We do not want it.
it. For all those reasons.
Yeah, and I had to dig up a bunch of this, so I know about the roots. It was fun to do that. Yeah, you can see that that's a stock farm right over there with a combination recycling plant. So the pollution into the rivers is extreme. There is. There's more of that trash here. Busted up bank there. Blah blah blah. And that's what the whole thing is. It's just
Is that a natural waterway?
Yeah.
Just been dredged and ditched?
dredged and ditched and burned, and people coming too close. I was really fascinated with Phragmites. This is an example of a remaining semi-wetland with some access to the floodplain. Not great. Even there's a small berm there, but this does flood.
Is this a flooding event, or is
No,
this sort of average?
This is just average.
Oh, really?
Oh, what's the date on this? This was March, so this was kind of wet-ish at the end of winter, and there was a big rain that day. This is another floodplain, and these are the Syrian refugees, and they're just encroaching like crazy on all the floodplains, and any flat spot they can be, and they're literally walking, and they're up to their knees in mud. Yeah, it's really something.
Where did you stay when you were there?
A really swank hotel downtown. I know, I felt awful. I've never stayed in such a nice place. Yeah, I used up the circus budget. So this is just another photo of this. This soil here, I think, is a subsoil. I think they've lost a lot of soil down here in what they think are agricultural lands. They've lost so much soil, they're into the E horizons and below. And B, they're in the B horizons. Yeah.
So because I think you said they dredged the canals too, so they've lowered that, they've lost their floodplain, it's also been lowered to the
Yep. The water table's going down.
That loss is from ag though?
Yeah.
From tillage
That,
and-
over thousands of years of tillage. Yeah, because it's awesome. It's right near the water. It's flat.
Yeah.
You know, that should be black.
So So, yeah, what is the soil like?
This is real clayey, and it's probably, you know, a B horizon. Yeah, it had clay skins and everything. It was a subsoil. Yeah, yeah. I'm looking at this going like, this isn't even supposed to be here. Yeah, that was cool to see, and they're looking at me like, what are you talking about? Yeah.
Sound like you ever Clark Forest.
Yeah. It is. It's the best stuff they've got. Yeah.
So is that a seeded grass right there?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's an introduced grass for
Oh
them?
yeah. That's a crop of some sort. This is how they get things to grow.
Oh my God.
Tons of fertilizer everywhere. Tons and tons of it. It's just like sugar. They use it on everything. It's crazy. And it's from China. So, you know, China's kind of holding the feed bag right now. Just another typical drainage.
So that's a dredge pile?
Yeah, dredge piles are everywhere. There wasn't a stream hardly around where they dredge piles. Right, where do you start? Well, you start with introducing folks to a few ideas and some forward thinking. And that we did that, so that worked. Yeah, they did a good job. LRI they're a sharp bunch. This is stuff you can't do anything about, you know, in the urban setting, all these canals. These are kind of deep and they're running fast. So it's just
There's
nothing.
there's a road right there on the right.
That's a road, yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and a mosque over there and a play yard. Yeah. Oof. This was a bad site. This is one where they're actively filling in. I mean, like while I was there, they were doing this. And this is a contaminated site. They had signs all around that said, "Don't come in here." So we went in anyway. Yeah, and then the refugee camp is right there. As they fill in more of the wetland, they push the refugees closer to the water.
What's it contaminated with?
You don't want to know. This one, dead sheep.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was a stinky mess.
Are those invasive willows on the left?
I couldn't tell you if they're invasive, but they are.
They look a lot like willows.
They look like, yeah. Oh, just more of that same stuff. Yeah, just everywhere. Yeah, I know, it's weird. You can see this was just dumped while I was there even. Between visits, that was new. This is a site where there used to be a giant wetland, and they just started filling it in from both sides, not realizing that that's their flood control and their percolation, you know, their well recharge.
How do you think about like a reference or baseline condition for a site like this when it's 5,000 years and?
You can only guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to look at how far you are from the landforms, from the mountains, what the deposits are, and just envision the flow coming over there.
Did you see any intact floodplains while you were there?
Yeah, and they were working to fill it in. It was a big one too. Yeah. But yeah. This was filled in between my two trips too. This was a big floodplain and a berm between the river and that field. This was kind of interesting. You know, another part of my job here was to identify limiting factors to plant establishment and growth. And of course, the limiting factor over there, where they're standing, is those dang goats. And the goats are just everywhere. And what I was curious about is that soil moist? You know, is there any capillary action going on? Is there some sub-irrigation going on? And so this was in August. It was a hot day. And that willow there, that might be Dabocana, actually. You know, that's where it came from. Anyway, so we took a little soil sample there.
So are goats like, that's their main livestock there?
Yeah.
Rather than cattle or?
That's right. Yeah, just goats everywhere. So the soil there in that little tiny sample, it was compacted. Yeah. And so the limiting, and it's moist. This was moist. So in August, and this was a good 8 feet up from the bank and probably 4 or 5 feet higher. So if you didn't have those animals in there, you could really grow some stuff. All these places that I visited, the revegetation potential was super high. So you could grow things almost everywhere if you protected them from people and goats.
Well, what was in the background of that last one?
Yeah, it looks like there was
It was like woody.
previous slide, there was
Oh.
a bunch of fragmentation.
It might have been. It was kind of a mess.
Lush green behind it.
Yeah, what was that? It was some kind of a field. Yeah. Does this go backwards?
I don't know.
All right, should we dare try that? No, it doesn't work. Too bad.
No, you're good. I think it's because
Yeah, I'm not gonna mess with it. Yeah, it was down in some really nice egg land. Just more of that urban setting with really deep trenches and such. And here's USAID work. This is funded by us.
It looks like California.
Yeah, and they are doing this as fast as they can. And no one ever said it out loud. I heard a few whispers that there's some corruption between the cement manufacturers and the U.S. government. So they're trying to use up cement. It's a big business. I don't know if that was true or not, but they're channelizing as fast as they can in this place.
And so are they irrigating those fields on opposite sides,
Yes.
or are they?
They-
are
they
those
sh-
natural?
They shouldn't need to irrigate them, but they
Right.
often do now. Because of what you pointed out, the water table dropped. And, in Mediterranean climate, that hot, dry summer really does take a toll. If you don't have, if you don't have deep-rooted stuff, usually perennials, you're kind of out of luck.
Do they have any sort of access to the, like ancient seed bank or anything like that?
I don't know. It's a good
Well, if they're
question.
in like the E horizon, it's like,
Yeah.
now it's just whatever's there now.
Yeah, it's what we've got now. But even that, they're screwing up by dropping the water table.
And fertile.
Yeah,
Adam would have only took 2 of each seed.
great. And more of that, there's just line channels going in as fast as they can do it. Uh-oh, another mess. Yeah. And like I say, the stream side vitality is good. They just need to put in buffer zones and maintain them. Another one, look at that, the refugee camp right up to the edge. And then they're using that water, which is extraordinarily toxic. So it's, yeah, they don't drink it. They don't drink it, but they're using it for other things. You can see this. You're asking about irrigation. They're pumping it out of there. There's pumps like that set everywhere. There's lots of irrigation going on. Here's freshly dug. You can see the excavator in the background. Yeah, and this is a very, very common sight to see these things getting trenched out. So it's kind of nuts. And enforcing laws there is tough. I don't think they can.
Do they have any regulations protecting anything?
Sure. Like they have regulations against doing what you just saw.
They do.
Yeah. But no one listens to anybody. Yeah.
Right, that's all, right?
I think so. I never got into the culture enough to know much about that.
Are those sedges?
That's
Russians?
yeah. It's the native vegetation on the side, and this is what LRI is doing now. They are terracing and they're taking the berms out, and before they do their re-veg, they're reshaping the stream. They're not getting much of a floodplain, but it's a hell of a lot better than a berm, and it won't carry the load of most streams, but it sure helps. And then they'll load that up with the native veg.
And where are they getting the material that they're using to build? Are they just using the existing material, or is that some sort of organic mixture?
That stuff is just existing.
So they're just regrading the berm.
They're regrading the berms. Yeah.
Where do they come up with organic material?
Yeah. Well,
Dead sheep.
they have like this. This was I remember where this stream was. This is one they sent to me to show. They were showing me what they graduated to. So after I left.
Are they growing that veg?
Oh yeah.
And
They
planting it?
LRI has initiated a nursery system in that country. So they've got a bunch of nurseries going in and growing a lot of good stuff. And then I was showing them how to do this with an excavator too. You know, Phragmites and these kind of things you can plop with an excavator really quick. So it's actually perfectly set up for stream restoration work. Usually we think of grass as not so awesome on the banks, but Phragmites is a different creature. It's okay. Yeah, it's bomb-proof. This is one of my last slides, I think. But it's neat to see how they've progressed in just a few years. They're going in and regrading stuff and taking the berms out and promoting the floodplains. Now they've got a core group of people who are promoting all the stuff that we just talked about.
And that's part of the government, or it's like more
Well,
like a nonprofit?
It's
type?
the nonprofit, but they're in cahoots with the government. And that guideline will help. That's what they were hoping for, was to get some guidelines so that they could.
I want to check that out. Can you download it?
You have it, don't you?
Lebanon.
The Lebanon.
I have it.
Riparian restoration manual.
Yeah, I have it.
That's really
Yeah, I
cool.
can send it. But it's electronic. So it's... Oh yeah, here's one of the nurseries. Yeah, they're not messing around. They really set up these nurseries well. Now I got to tell you, their outplanting crews are hilarious. Guess how many trees they plant a day per person? Wow. What's that? 10.
Oh. I mean, this is new for them.
It is. And oddly, because they're persistent about it, it's actually making a difference. There's whole hillsides now that are full of conifers that weren't there just a few years ago.
Some of those are really big, though.
Yeah.
You gotta give them a little
That's
bit
true.
of credit.
Yeah.
Those are pretty big
They're probably
containers right
1 to
there.
2 gallon pots, yeah, some of them. But when they do plant a tree, it lives. They don't have any mortality. So that's kind of cool because they dick around with one tree for an hour.
Well,
So,
do they add amendments to it? Since the soils are so lacking in
they
organics?
don't. They might use some like a leaf star fertilizer or something like that. But they do mulch on top with rock.
Ah.
So all these things are rocked in. It's kind of nice, yeah. And they spend a lot of time fencing big pastures to keep the goats out.
Oh, nice.
So there's a lot of work involved. But just the planting is slow. And that's because they show up about 10, they leave about noon.
Oh.
So it's, they're not, they're a funny work crew.
That's great.
That's the pace of a 5.
I got to plant one tree, yeah.
Yeah.
One tree. Yeah, and it was a ceremonial tree. There was a big, weird ceremony going on, and in the ceremony they planted this tree as part of it, and then the crowd left to go talk about something else, and they planted the tree wrong. So I pulled it up. Oh, it did. It did. And I pulled it up. It was a big ball umbrella, and I replanted it and got all muddy for this fancy event.
So those are all cedars then?
I'm not sure. I can't tell from here. Yeah. Cedars, true cedars are a really odd tree. They're just like a larch except for evergreen. So they're kind of a funny tree that way. There's a few here in town. Oh, that's the crew that was with. So that's it. Any questions about all this? How do you escape it? So you just hit